Child, listen.
No stranger, it's been a minute since we last kicked it. And by the way, just got in town. And I won't.
Hey babes, welcome back to my channel, Faith Walk with Tay. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for sticking with the gang. And if you're a new subscriber, thank you for joining the gang. So as you can see by the title below, today we're going to be doing a little story time slash testimony. We're just homegirls talking, we're chilling. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that post notification bell. Today we are going to be talking about how I lost my mother when I was 16 years old. If you see me looking on this side, I do have my iPad set up so that way I can make sure the lighting is staying, I'm in focus, everything like that. And I do have a couple notes that I want to touch on towards the end of the video. I got my tissue because we're not even about to play ourselves like that. Let's hop right into this video. So I was adopted at around 6 or 7 months old. My mom had MS. MS is a short highlighted version of multiple sclerosis. It's a disease in which the immune system eats away at the protective covering of nerves. In MS, resulting nerve damage disrupts communication between the brain and the body. MS is a very progressive disease. So with my mom, it started off as, don't you see me doing a story time? Started with the cane, later it transitioned to a walker, and then lastly it transitioned into a wheelchair. She wasn't completely paralyzed, but she could not walk for very long distances, and her joints would get very, very tight, especially during the heat. Summer, early fall, it would be very difficult for her to move. Her hands felt as if prickly, and it felt like somebody was constantly doing this to her hands. Growing up, my mom didn't really like to be touched at a certain point because it hurt to touch. Hugging and rubbing, it hurt. As a child, it's very hard not to be able to give your mom a hug, or if you give her a hug, it's like, okay, you know, that's enough, break off of me. And the type of person and the type of child that I was and still am, I'm a very loving person. So I would always want to, you know, either lay on my mom, hug my mom, stuff like that. She wouldn't reject it, but it would be very, okay, you know, that's enough. Hard to not be able to show your affection to your parent the way that you want to. I didn't have much of a childhood. At one point I was able to, you know, take planes. I was able to go to New Mexico. I was able to travel. At one point we had family game night, but that was also beginning stages of her MS. As it progressed, those type of activities started to decrease. As time went on, years went on, it was times and incidents that happened. Like, I remember when my mom fell down a flight of stairs in our old house back in New Jersey, where where I was brought up from. And it's like ever since then, I was then needed in the house. If it wasn't for school, I had to be in the house after school on the weekends. My dad was a pastor, and he was a very busy pastor. He did banquets, he did funerals, he did weddings, he did all this stuff. So he was constantly busy in the church. Because he was busy in the church, I had to be busy at home. Just doing little simple after school activities, I couldn't really do. I was considered a sneaky child. But I was also considered a sneaky child because I snuck to do simple things. Boys weren't interested in me, so I wasn't out there, you know, wilding out, doing stuff like that. I can remember times where I would sneak to go to the fireworks because there was always a need for me to be in the house, because I wasn't able to go out and be a child because I had to make sure that my mother was all right. At any given moment, her legs could go out and she could fall. I had to be at home. It was very hard to see my mother basically decline in front of me. Although I was a child, me having to stay home and stay with her, it caused sort of a negative emotion or feeling that I had towards her. I didn't hate her, but I resented her. I resented the disease. It would be times that she would call me and I would purposely act like I didn't hear her because I just got called. I just helped you with something. I just helped you with this. I have a helping nature, but as a child who has to choose helping over being a child, it starts to outweigh wanting to be a child instead of helping. Fast forward a few years later, we relocated to North Carolina. Even then, it just went downhill. It literally went downhill from there. I told y'all, I got my tissues for a reason. I'm allowing myself to be vulnerable. This testimony isn't more so about me, but it's just more so about how God changed everything. She got put on a drug. I don't remember the exact name of the drug, but she would inject in different spots of her body, and this basically helped her, you know, to move throughout the day and not feel as tense in her bones and tense in her body, so that she can still do, you know, normal regular functions that she wanted to do. So once the house was finished in North Carolina, my dad stayed back for a few months until the New Jersey house actually sold. My dad came. Even before he came, stuff kind of wasn't any different, and I get it. As a parent and also as a parent, I get it. The trust was not there, but at the same time, I don't think that it was being noticed that, okay, she's sneaking out to go do things that a child, you know, wants to do. No child wants to be cooped up in the house 24/7. So with that being said, because the trust wasn't there, basically the same treatment happened when I moved to North Carolina. I wasn't able to really do anything. My job as a now 14-year-old girl was to go to high school, get on the bus, and come back home. Nothing else, because it was a little bit easier because my dad wasn't in a church yet. So because he was able to be home, I had a little bit more freedom, little bit. So I was able to do, you know, small things like go after school activities, you know, like Spirit Week and stuff like that. I was able to do that for a short amount of time, because kind of the same thing rolled over into high school. It caused the same trickle effect of sneaking. It caused the same trickle effect of lying, saying that I was there getting tutoring when I'm really watching a football game after school, stuff like that. Like I said, I was able to do small stuff leading up to before my mom passed. She was in a rehabilitation center for physical therapy. So she was there, she was working on, you know, getting her mobility back to where it once was, because as I said, MS is a very progressive disease. So over time, it would just get hard. It was very stiff for her to move, and it was very hard for her to move. She went to rehab and she did good. I think she stayed, y'all, this was so long ago. Like I said, this happened when I was 16 and I'm now 28. You do the math. Excuse me if some parts are just not, you know, not there. It wasn't like a year. It wasn't like no tremendous long time. It was like a couple months. After rehab, it's like, it just declined. A few months later, it just, phew. So my mom died in August, and I want to say that she was in the hospital for the overall stay, probably for like a month. We went in the hospital, and I don't remember the exact reason why she went into the hospital, but she went into the hospital. They kept her. It's declined so quick. So quick. And she was talking, she was making jokes, she was doing everything that looked like she would come home. It looked like she was going to come home. And I can remember, and as I said, it's gonna be a little blotchy because I don't remember everything specifically. She was sitting up and she was laughing, she was talking. Our church, because eventually we found a church, our church came to see her being her normal self. And my dad were leaving. I left my phone charger. He was pulling it up to the front of the hospital. of the exit that I was leaving from. And I yelled to him, Daddy, I left my charger, let me run back up there and go get it. He was on the phone, and I'll never forget talking to somebody. She's doing good, we're just leaving now, she's making jokes, and she should be home soon. This is why I didn't wear makeup. Don't lie to you, y'all, this happened from her making jokes to me going down to the car, saying I forgot my charger to run back up. 5 minutes, 6 minutes tops. I walked in, there was a nurse on top of her. They were pumping her chest, literally on top of her, pumping her chest. Mind you, I'm 16. I went into cardiac arrest. Her heart had stopped, so they were trying to revive her. As a teenager, I lost it. I didn't run. My first thought wasn't to run in. It was to run out and go find my daddy. I ran downstairs. I didn't even take the elevator. I ran downstairs and I screamed, Daddy! Her heart stopped. Her heart stopped. They're pumping on her chest. And my dad's like, what? What? I said, she's not breathing. And I took back off into the hospital. I took off. I didn't wait for him. I didn't give him a chance to respond. Nothing. My first reaction was tell my daddy. My second reaction was, okay, now that I told my dad, go back to my mom. So I took back off into the hospital to go back up there. They're not letting me in the room because they're still working on her. My dad comes up maybe about the same amount of time, 6-7 minutes later. And he's like, what's wrong? What's happening? She was just fine. We're both so confused. So confused. And they begin to tell us that she had a heart attack. And I believe she went about 11-12 minutes without oxygen before they revived her. Hey Siri, how long can the human brain go without oxygen?
The brain stops functioning within just a few minutes without oxygen, and permanent damage occurs if there is no oxygen for more than 6 minutes.
She was being taken off this injection. One of the side effects of being taken off of the medication too soon, or side effects of stopping it, is cardiac arrest, heart attack, stroke, stuff like that. When she was coming off of this medicine, it was causing her to be a little bit drowsy. It was not drowsy as in sleepy, but drowsy as in delusional. Getting the phlegm out of her chest the way that I saw the nurses do. And as I was cleaning it, she's pushing my hand out and I'm like, Mommy, we got to clean this stuff out of you because you got to be okay. So I have to clean this stuff out of you. As she pushed my hand away, she's like, don't touch me, don't touch me. I hate you. When she said it, I didn't yell. I didn't show any emotion right there towards her. I put the suction thing back on the wall, and I just went to the bathroom and I cried. She doesn't mean it. She doesn't mean it. That the medicine is leaving her body. She doesn't mean it. But it didn't take away the sting because she said it. Even though I knew that she was in this delusion, it didn't take away the hurt. So I stayed in the bathroom for a little while because the nurse came in. When I heard the nurse come in, I kind of got myself together and I came back out. And there was a glimpse of hope. Because it went from she's up talking, she's up, making jokes, to, okay, she's starting to enter into this delusion, and then she had a heart attack. People around me didn't understand. I walked in. Y'all got called, but I walked in and saw this. So I understand that this was a time for family to band together and be there for one another. But I was 16. I didn't know how to process what I just saw. It's not looking good, and we need to make a decision. While everybody was in the family room, I went to her room. I held her hand. I told her, I said, Mommy, I'm sorry. I know she heard me. I know she heard me because a tear ran down her eye. They pulled the plug and stayed breathing on her own for about a few hours. I think we good on these though. I think we good. I say all of that to say I was so mad at God, period of years. I was mad at different people, mad at myself. I was mad at God. I was mad at the lady who told me from the church that she would be all right. I moved out of the house at 17. I was clubbing, I was partying, I was drinking, I was smoking, I was popping pills. I was doing everything that pushed me farther and farther and farther away from God. Me praying wasn't happening. Me going to church wasn't happening. Eventually, I burned out. God kind of snatched me out of the enemy's grip before he took me up out of here. Because I was close to death. In a total of 10 years since my mom has died. It's still hard, but I don't do any of the stuff that I was doing to cope with pain. It took me coming into the church that I am in now. It's so important to be in a church where they can see spiritually, where they can intercede for you, where they can speak life into you, where they can speak a word to you that resonates so good. Like, oh my God, it's like I've been waiting to hear that for years. At one point, I stayed in the house. Like, I stayed in the house every weekend, not realizing that I was depressed, not realizing that I was isolating myself. It took my pastor, and you'll hear me in future videos say, Mom, well, even though my earthly mom has been taken away from me 10 years ago, God has blessed me to not have not one, but two spiritual mothers. And when I tell you, they will say stuff, child, they will say stuff that reminds me so much of my mother. I'm so grateful for them. It's okay to hurt. Don't be afraid to seek godly counsel. I'm not talking about these jacked up churches. Unfortunately, if people have church hurt and people get hurt by the church, they're turned off by the church and they stay away from the church. But not all churches are the same. It's okay for therapy. It's okay to get therapy. Allow yourself to feel. I would laugh everything off to avoid from crying. Allow yourself to feel. Don't stay there. Please don't stay there. Release it. It says that the Lord bottles our tears. That's how precious tears are to him. If you don't get nothing else from this video, cry. Let it out. Girl, cry. I'm telling you. Child, listen. I done cried my curls out. How can I share my testimony? How can I share me being vulnerable? How can I share my experience and not show any emotion? Allow yourself to cry out to God. Because the amazing thing about God is he can handle us when we're mad at him. He can handle us when we're confused. He can handle us in our joyous moments. He can handle us when we're resistant or being hard-headed. We can turn our back on God, but God will never turn his back on us. Everything that I went through, I was so broken that I had no choice but to turn to God. I had to hit rock bottom in order to look up to the help from which my help cometh from. It's times where I have my moments. I'm not gonna lie. The danger of staying where you are, depression, trauma, anxiety, isolation, alcohol, drugs, the list can go on. It's okay. You're not alone. If you ever get to a point where it feels like depression is winning, because trust me, I know that's not who I am. The chapter in my life that I was facing, that ain't the end of the book. We're not about to roll the credits and close the book. No. The Lord says that a great work that I have started, I will see it to completion. He's gonna see the work that he started in you to completion. First one that I used, Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope in the future. Child, my soul trying to take me out. Psalm 147:3. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. A broken heart is not too big for God. I'm gonna start getting excited. There's nothing too hard for God. Isaiah 41:10. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. God is with us 24/7. Even in our time of weakness, he strengthens us. That's all I have for today. If it helped you in any way, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see y'all in my next video.
Hello, stranger. It's been a minute since we last kicked it.